I do my hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Woo, child, tired of the bullshit. Gone, dust your shoulders off. Keep it moving, yes, Lord. Trying to get some new shit in there. Swimwear, going to the pool shit. Come now, come dry your eyes. You know you a star, you can touch the sky. I know that it's hard, but you have to try. If you need advice, let me simplify. If he don't love you anymore, just walk your fine ass out the door. I do my hair talk, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Hair talk, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Feeling good as hell. Baby, how you feeling? Woo, girl, need to kick off your shoes. Gotta take a deep breath, time to focus on you. All the big fights, long nights that you've been through. I got a bottle of tequila I've been saving for you. Boss up and change your life. You can have it all, no sacrifice. I know we...
Okay, welcome back, gang. Meg Higgins, your queen of second opinions. You can find me at secondopinionated.com. If you want to call in, 515-599-1687. I have earned the right to call myself the queen of second opinions because I've been living a long time, longer than I ever imagined. Yeah, I'm officially in the third act, which is anybody over 60. If you must know my body's age, go to the website. I'll tell you there. But I live through my spirit, and she is 45, so that's really the number that I claim. The second reason that I am the queen of second opinions is because I am a practicing clinical therapist going into my 45th year. Wow. Now I'm going to tell you something. I never thought in a million years that when I became technically a licensed clinical social worker and then became a therapist, that I would stay in this industry. But I have had the time of my life. I have been so many places. I've served so many people. Yeah, and I'm still kicking. So here's the deal. The question I get asked the most, Meg, how come people come to you? How come people seek therapy? What's up with that? And I actually, looking back, could kind of categorize it in one of three reasons. One, people are troubled and they want some type of guidance, support, influence, impact, and opinion, which is obviously mine. Or they're curious. They have questions about their life, the quality of their life, where their life is headed, and they're seeking some type of insight, answer, or perspective. And then the third is they want both. They might be troubled, they might be curious, and they, again, want the benefit of having someone who is not related to them, not in their circle, not in their history, and could potentially bring some fresh eyes, fresh ears. Now, when you break that down even more, some people truly rely on a therapist to build their self-confidence. They're not feeling secure or solid within themselves, and so they're seeking a guide, someone who is pretty seasoned and who's well-trained. There are some people who would tell you they're coming because there's a specific event that happened in their life that is impeding the quality of their life or the advancement of their life. We call that on the streets trauma or woundedness. Again, there's a lot of psychobabble in my industry, which I'm not a big fan of. But neither here nor there, every industry has its language, including mine. Some people also genuinely come to get educated. They want some skills. They want to learn how to solve some of their own problems. They don't necessarily want to rely on an outside person every time they get in any kind of hole. They like to be able to build the ladder and climb out of it themselves. I've seen a lot. I've also seen people who are willing to come and pay me to just bitch, moan, groan, and perpetuate what we call victimization. Everybody else is screwed up. There's something wrong with everybody else, and I need to tell, in this case, this person, all the things that I'm unhappy about. In other words, they just want to justify their behavior. Yeah, and stay a victim. The thing I remember when I had my business in Chicago, my private practice started here in St. Louis, Missouri. Many years later, moved to Chicago, set it back up there. And at that time, I only worked with couples. Decided to claim that niche. I'd catch them dating, shacking, engaged, married and fulfilled, and wanting to make sure this good thing continued. We would call that enrichment. There were some people who were married and bored and thought if they don't wake this relationship up again, they'll end up divorced. I also witnessed many divorces right before my very eyes where the decision was made. And I actually am a big believer in divorce. I have been divorced. It serves a purpose. Even though I like connection, some things do need to end, and as my one mentor told me, Meg, every relationship's going to end, whether it's through death, breakup, or divorce. There is an expiration date for all of us. But the thing that I saw in Chicago that I had never seen before as a therapist were how many couples decided to get into counseling, but in particular they picked me, Meg, because I had a newspaper column in Chicago with the Sun-Times. It was a monthly column called Being Together, I think is what it was. Either which way, and there are some people that are very status seeking. They want to go to a party or a function and say, oh, my therapist said, they're kind of into the name dropping side of this. I think that's worn off now because therapy and getting help of any kind has become very normalized. I remember back in the day when there was a stigma attached to it. You didn't want to be caught dead coming out of a therapist's office. Thank God that's changed. But the thing that really aggravated me was the number of people that would seek me out. They want to be able to say, I'm going to Meg, the gal that's got the Chicago Sun-Times newspaper column. And it was a way of, being trendy and a way to, see themselves as somewhat elite and sophisticated because they were working with this woman who had a newspaper column. In other words, just check the box. There are many people that will go to a therapist or a counselor just to be able to say, I went, and maybe get friends, lovers, family off their back because they are seeking help. And the other thing too, again, which I really appreciated was, and I saw this when I got on the military contracts. It's on my website. I've been privileged as a therapist to put in close to 15 years serving 4 branches of our military service. I did Navy. Thank you. Navy, Army, Air Force, and the Air Guard. And the thing that really stood out about that population, which quite frankly I had never really experienced, was just how hungry they were, how motivated they were to get an opinion professional, and to do it in a way that, again, was not stigmatized. They genuinely wanted to have some sense of guidance, and I love the fact that that's exactly what they were seeking. Very, very hungry, very motivated, and more than anything, as compared to the private sector, I was so struck by how many of my military folks literally would hang on every word I said. And not in a narcissistic, arrogant, self-absorption kind of way, but in a genuine, like, I don't know. And you've had the benefit of serving so many people, and I have, different ages. I'll never work with children. That's not my thing. But anybody over 21, adult, was my thing. And I've had, like I said, several niches. So the bottom line is, there are many reasons that people seek out a therapist or counselor. If I had to really now, all these 45 years later, distill it, I'd almost say that the question most people ultimately want to get answered is, who am I? And how come I'm here? It sounds a little woo-woo and existential, but bottom line is, it involves some digging. And that's really what I think a fabulous therapist does, is they ask phenomenal questions. They're not there just listening and going, okay, okay. They're genuinely attuned to that person, what they're really seeking, and then crafting, like I said, phenomenal, very creative questions that will facilitate that person getting more to the root of who they are. Because many things get, quite frankly, contaminated as a result of our childhood. I've always said, I know I came out of my mother's womb just fine. Competent, smart, savvy, good to go. And it's in those developing years, birth to age 8, that we are affected and influenced by the events going on in the family constellation. And it doesn't necessarily have to be trauma or something significant. We put a lot of attention on that, abuse, addiction, et cetera, yet there's a lot of people that get through childhood rather nondescript. There's nothing dramatic yet. If we don't get some of our basic needs met, which I'm going to talk about, that will upset the apple cart of us answering, who am I and how come I'm here? There's a particular way that I have shared with people as a tool to kind of start answering that question. But let me educate you, because I am the queen of second opinions. And if I'm going to have an opinion, I need to be schooled myself, and I need to be a seeker and ask questions and get my own answers and research and read and listen and all that. And there's so many resources available. I would say, hands down, the biggest contributor to people wanting to explore themselves, to become more self-aware as to who am I really, how come I'm here, is Abraham Maslow. He was a psychologist back in the 1940s. And his claim to fame was he created this diagram, you could look it up, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a beautiful image in the shape of a pyramid. And he talks about, and I'm just going to keep this very simple and distill it, that as humans, we have needs and drives that motivate our behavior, that almost justify our existence. And ultimately, those needs and the behaviors that we rely on serve an overarching purpose, which is to become who I am meant to become. The simplest way I break it down to clients, and I love this, I love my creative problem solving that serves me very well as a therapist. And I always tell people, we've got a first name and a last name. So mine is Meg Higgins. So in this town of St. Louis, as a Higgins, we all grew up, and there's 10 of us, and I'm number 3. I call it the pack mentality. There were certain things that were subscribed to being a Higgins, and one of the things was have fun. My dad, God love you, Jack. I know you're in heaven. You did everything you could to get there. You were almost like the 11th child in this family. You would come home, of course, you were a traveling salesman, you were gone, and I suspect one of the ways you compensated for that was when you come back home, you'd scoop all of us up and take us to a playground, a park, a swimming pool in the summer, a barbecue, down to the trains to watch the trains. I could go on and on and on. But you were all about play, fun, and lightheartedness. And I'm sure that served you because you were an over-the-road salesman, and that's not any kind of perky life. But part of being a Higgins was to lean in towards play, fun, laughter, a good time. So that last name that we all acquire comes with history, comes with ancestral legacies, traditions that some get passed down, some don't. But clearly, if you were to come into a room where all of us were, you would know we were related, and not by how we looked. Because quite frankly, I don't think we resemble each other much. But you would know that these 10 children were part of a tribe, largely because of the laughter, the play, and also the need to talk over everybody. Oh my God. Higginses, we are the interrupters on steroids. You could be on a roll, on a ramp, but man, if a Higgins is there, they're going to find a way to get into that conversation and hijack it. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but it was just, again, a behavior. And I do believe some of that is tied to not feeling heard. When you've got 12 people sharing the same residence, I mean, come on, it's crowded. Let's just go there. I think that's half the reason why I became a therapist, quite frankly, so that I could listen to the sound of my own voice and I could hear people because I didn't get heard much. So all roads often lead back to that. But Maslow, again, in this pyramid, talked about various hierarchical needs. And the first one is what he called physiological needs. As part of being human, we need to eat, we need to sleep, we need to breathe, we need shelter, we need water, and we definitely need to eliminate. That's part of how the body is designed. That's where we start. Once we come out of our mother's the womb, that is the primary driving force. And whether or not those needs get met often determine how much further we're going to go in terms of our personal growth, or what he called self-actualization. But that's at the bottom. Then the next tier of the pyramid, which drives, again, our behavior and gives us a sense of fulfillment and a pursuant, is what he called safety and security. And that's really simple. Who's taking care of my body? How is my body? What kind of attention do I need to give myself? Am I healthy? And as we start to become a little bit more autonomous, that includes safety and security in the sense of what do I need to do to keep myself out of danger, and aligning ourselves with other people. That's why I do appreciate growing up in a pack. I felt pretty safe most of the time because there was always somebody around. But yet, interesting, when I left home and got out on my own, I wasn't the best judgment of people. My radar was a little fuzzy because, again, I always had people looking out for me and my safety and security. Then you go up the pyramid, and this is the one that I really, really just made a fortune out of in my business and was drawn to couples, was what he called love and belonging. We need people. I always like to say, if God meant for us to be alone, he or she would have put us on the planet one person at a time. And that's not what happened. We are here with a lot of people because human connection feeds us. It gives us a sense of I matter, I'm lovable, I'm okay, I'm worthy. And a lot of people, in terms of their personal growth and development, who am I and how come I'm here, that part of the need can oftentimes be tampered with, from lousy choices in relationships and all the stuff that's going on with the dating apps. I probably need to do a whole show just on that part of the pyramid, love and belonging. To feel connected, that's definitely being interrupted by all of the attachment we have to technology. I've done a lot of speaking, and especially when I was on the military contracts. And my average client member was about 27, 28. And they would come in to their sessions and talk a lot about, you know, all the friends they had on Facebook, and I would be the first one to say, honey, babe, you think those are friends? Let me break this down. There is connection, and then there's contact. You can have a lot of contact, exchange of information, exchange of ideas through technology that can give you a false sense of belonging, a false sense of I'm known. But in the final analysis, if people do not get to experience your energy, if they don't get to be in your physical company, if they don't get to track the nonverbals, because 70% of our communication is not through words, it's through our body signs. And you got to be there, and not just on a screen. That has limitations. Now, I know telehealth is big, and I do some of it, but for the most part, I'm still mostly about, if you want to work with me as a client, you got to come to my office. I've got to be able to just feel how you roll, literally. But love and belonging was a big, big part of our needs to connect, to feel like we matter, to feel like I'm close to someone, because that also builds confidence while you're feeling connected to someone. And then the farther up the pyramid, next level is what he called self-esteem. And that's where you've had a lot of trials and tribulations. You've not only survived, but you've overcome, and you've actually recovered. And that is what builds your sense of self. I can make it. Or what's that phrase? So many of my clients say, I've got this. Or you go, girl. Self-confidence is built on I am not perfect, and I know how to recover. I'm willing to make mistakes because mistakes are teachers. That's why they're there. And boy, when I look back on my 20s, that decade, I covered a lot of ground fucking up. I absolutely did. And I'm telling you something. I am so grateful because it completely altered the second act of my life, which is between 30 and 60.
Did you make the same mistake twice?
Oh, no.
Well, see,
no,
then
no,
you learned,
no.
right? Yeah, then
no,
you learned.
no.
That's
Oh,
the
by the way, folks, let me reintroduce you to Justin, who is mycitymymusic.com, the studio that I get to occupy and share my second opinions with. Thank you, Justin. I'm so used to just having this monologue, but thank you.
Oh, yeah.
No, exactly. Well, that's the thing. It's like, you know, I do a whole bit. By the way, I'm a stand-up comedian on the side, and I do a whole thing on you can't fix stupid. Because the bottom line is, that is stupidity, is to keep repeating the same mistake. Or Einstein said something like, insanity was when you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different outcome. Yeah, he had that right. He sure did. But again, building one sense of love for self, confidence, sense of mastery is the next tier. But the final one, which is what I saw over the course of 45 years, so many people ultimately, they didn't verbalize it this way. But they really were at some deeper unconscious level. Again, and the Army had a great tagline, be the best you can be. Well, I would just say, be the Meg you were meant to be. Again, last name Higgins ties me to history, ties me to many of the traditions that came with growing up in the Higgins household. But Meg is my first name, and that's what separates me from the pack. And that's ultimately what you want to get to. When we pose the question, who am I? Go to your first name. Who the hell is Meg? And I can answer that before this little gathering is over. But self-actualization is where you've gone through the trials and tribulations. And thank you, Justin. We've learned from the things we've screwed up. And we build from that not only a sense of confidence and mastery, but a sense of I'll keep going forward, taking more and more risks. That's really what self-actualization is about. It's not about becoming perfect. No.
No risk, no reward.
That's right. It's about being who you were meant to be in this life, but that's based on all the interactions, experiences, encounters, situations, and events that have occurred in your life. Now, it does help if you're a seeker. And by that I mean, that goes back to, again, a big part of the people that have reached out to me over the years were people who were genuinely curious. Or the metaphor I would like to use is a car. People who were willing just to pop open the hood and just take a look and start to get familiar with that which keeps this car going, the carburetor, the engine, the oil, et cetera, and to know how do I need to attend to myself, the car, in order to keep traveling through life. The word self-actualization is a little fancy for some, so I like to distill it down to Meg becoming who she was meant to become and being in alignment. In other words, how you see and experience a person on the outside matches what's going on the inside. In other words, their behaviors match their inner self. So, for example, I see myself, I experience myself as a very generous person. I've been a big sister for over 24 years. I have volunteered for Salvation Army. I have helped out food pantries. I was responsive to people in trouble when there were fires up in Northern California. I have a steady history of giving, attending, and being generous to others. So that, to me, is who Meg is, and I've got a track record to back that up. I think it's time for me to come up for a little bit of air. Justin, can I take a little music break here? Okay, he's nodding yes. So again, who am I really is the focus of this gathering. Meg Higgins, your queen of second opinions. Again, sharing how come many people do sign up to do some self-exploration, self-examination, which we call therapy.
All right. Yeah. We'll come back. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for the second half. Second Opinionated. Tune in or else.
Welcome back, gang. Meg Higgins, your queen of second opinions. Secondopinionated.com if you want to check me out and make a determination as to how you could put me on your team. And there's a bunch of ways to do that as a speaker for any of your events. And also, I am your Chat GPT human therapist. Yeah, not everybody's interested in long-term therapy or every week therapy, which I totally understand. And again, some folks, this is what I like seeing what's happening. Some folks just want to kind of like put their little toe in the water, get a rapid fire response. And I have to say, the 15 years that I served the military population trained me very well to get down and dirty quickly and impart some particular piece of information, insight, influence, opinion, you name it. So there's ways to access me. Go secondopinionated.com is the website. The phone here, if you ever want to call in and talk to me directly, is 515-599-1687. In the meantime, the discussion today has been, who am I really? Because again, I find that over the 45 years of serving in this capacity, at some deeper level than others, people really do wonder, like, who am I and how do I become my best self? Oprah liked that term. I think she coined it. And again, the Army, be the best that I can be. Because we're really not here just to occupy space. We're really not. And we are given drives and a need to aspire and to fulfill. A lot of people use the garden metaphor, which I think is a good one. I'm a plant and I need to be watered, I need sun, I need attending to, so that I can grow and expand. And no one could have told me that in the third act of my life that I've been to every state in this country as a result of mostly my work. I've been to 8 countries. Let's see, what are some of my other claims to fame? I jumped off a cliff in Moab, Utah, base jumping, 1,000 feet. Wow. I mean, my point is, I like the idea of stretching, and discomfort does that. If you're going to play it safe, then you're never going to talk to people like me. You're just going to find a simple life, which is okay. We need people like that. But I'm just telling you, the way we were created and hardwired was to become and to keep changing things up. And I'm not talking big drama. I'm not talking midlife crisis, which I've seen my fair share of people leaving the 40s and going into the 50s. Although I heard the other day that there's a quarter life crisis, that our youngsters between 25 and 30 are feeling higher degrees of distress, and I'm sure that's not a surprise, and I'll probably talk about that sooner rather than later. But back to the question, who am I really? So I would check out Maslow's hierarchy of needs if you want to understand the human potential, what needs we really have that need to be taken care of with some regularity in order to become greater masters of our lives. The other simple way, down and dirty, because I like to use simple approaches, is I would tell my folks, get a piece of paper and divide it up between 2 questions. Not questions, who I am and what I am. Because there's a big, big, big difference. A lot of people confuse the two. And you see this at every function. The first question we ask, well, what do you do? What's your job? What's your career? Now, part of that is designed to get comfortable and to have an early start of a connection. But this culture, Western culture, values performance so much and excellence that many people get their whole sense of self-identity wrapped up in what they do. And what I am is really tied to the titles and the roles that you've had and you've acquired in your life. So, for example, I am a sister. I'm somebody's sister. I'm an aunt. I'm a friend. I'm a mom. I am a therapist. I was a cheerleader back in high school. I'm going to put that down.
You need a bigger board.
Well, that's true. I'm just making the point, though, thank you, Justin, that what I am only speaks to the titles and the roles that you've operated life from, or the hats that we've worn. Some expire, some retire, some stay with us for the rest of our life. So when someone says what I am and they confuse that with who I am, I'm like, no, 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 no. This is, again, part of performance related and a sense of competency and mastery. In other words, what I am is tied to what I do. Well, what I am and what I do doesn't necessarily capture who I am as a person. Best example I like to give is I would have people tell me, oh, you're a therapist. Well, you must be a very nurturing person. And I would say, I don't think that's my strong suit. That's not my strong suit. Yes, I'm a nurturing, but when I talk about who is Meg in the role of a therapist, the adjective I would pick is direct. Or as many of my clients like to say, Meg, you're a straight shooter. That's who I am. I'm a tell it like it is person. And that's got nothing to do with my role. So again, if you want to start hanging out with who am I really, come up with your list of titles, roles, jobs even that you've had, roles in life, and then come up with an adjective to describe you in the role. That is the essence. That's what matters. Not because I've had a lot of jobs that I couldn't wait to get out of because they didn't fit me. And it wasn't just my skills or my talents. They didn't fit my true essence. And I'll sum it up this way. I have a thing about names. And if you go to my website, you're going to see all the applications that Meg, the name that my father nicknamed me, has. And one of the things I learned when I was in high school, one of my friends at the time, Sheila, wherever you are, said to me, you know what I like about your name, Meg? I said, I don't know what. She's like, it spells gem backwards. And I went, ho, ho. And what I liked about that is there is a sense of brightness that comes with me. And I saw the brightness when I was a cheerleader. I would have a lot of positive energy in that role. So again, start making the distinction. It will serve you. You don't want to just do life, or like I like to tell people, I'm busy living, not busy dying. But that's my approach to this thing called life. In the meantime, I hope you've picked up a few little things that you can apply. And thanks for listening. Meg Higgins, Queen of Second Opinions. I'll be back again. Check me out.
Do my hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Hair toss, check my nails.